I'd like to welcome each one of you to our devotional study today. We have spent the last couple of months looking at the doctrine of the Bible, and we're hoping to get through the doctrine of the Bible in the month of March. We will see how that works out. But I have not wanted to rush through this because of the simple matter that every other doctrine that we study over this next while is built upon the foundation of the fact that the Bible is the Word of God and that everything that we believe we get from our Bible. So we want to be very careful in studying the Bible and how the Bible got from God to us. Today we're going to begin looking at how the Bible got from the original languages into the English language. And we want to look at some of the versions that predate the Authorized King James Version, and also some key events in history that brought about the translation of the King James Bible. Now, I understand that in a week or a week and a half, we're really not going to be able to do this subject justice. I just want to look at the highlights of the history of the King James Bible. And if you want to know more about this, I do have a book that I have written that is called The Superiority of the King James Bible. And I go into more detail behind the whole Bible version issue in that book. And I look at the fact that the King James Bible is superior in the text behind the King James Bible, in the translators that translated the King James Bible, in the technique that they used in translating, and the theology of the King James Bible is superior. And if you want to know more about that in great detail, and I also wrote that book at a grassroots level, so simple language so that anybody could understand. That was my goal, not just the scholars. And I have this book available. If you are in the States, you can actually even find it on Amazon.com, cheaper than you can even find it through me shipping it to the States. So just look for Danny Jack, The Superiority of the King James Bible, and that book will come up. I want to just give you a brief history of the Authorized King James Version today. Of course, when you study this thing through, you will come to understand that the crowning product of English scholarship is unquestionably the Authorized King James Version of the Bible. It was a Bible that was conceived by the work of William Tyndale, gestated in the womb of the English Reformation, and perfected with the words of the great English language, and proved through the powerful witness in succeeding generations. However, the average Christian today has been led to believe that the King James Bible is obsolete, because it is now over 400 years old, and it contains many archaic words and phrases. And we want to look at that a little bit in this study over the next week or so. The more Reformed Christian has been told that the Authorized King James Version also contains mistakes and faulty translations because it was translated from a few late manuscripts. And we want to look at whether or not that is really true. For many years now, the King James debate has been a burning issue, and we want to look at that, and we're going to look at it from the perspective that I accept the Authorized King James Bible as the pure, preserved, infallible Word of God in the English language. But why is it that I would say that? Well, this study over the next number of days is going to answer that question. What I really want to do today is just look at a brief history of the Authorized King James Version. The King James Version came about in the providence of God through a series of events that happened in England. You may say, well, what were those events? Well, first of all, the publication of Wycliffe's Bible. John Wycliffe was a guy who lived from 1302 to 1384 BC. And Wycliffe actually translated the very first complete English Bible, and it was done from 1380 to 1382 AD. And John Wycliffe's Bible was translated from the corrupt Latin Vulgate. So it had some errors in it, but what that version did, what that Bible did, was it created a hunger in the hearts of the English-speaking people for the Word of God in their language, and it sowed the seeds of the English Reformation that happened roughly 130 years later. Another thing that is key in this is the Tyndale's Bible. William Tyndale lived from 1494 to 1536 when he was burned at the stake. But he translated the first English Bible from the original languages. And his New Testament was translated from the Greek text that was prepared by Desiderius Erasmus, which later became known as the received text or the Textus Receptus, which is the exact same Greek text that was used in the translation of the New Testament in the King James Bible. The third thing that is key is the reign of King Henry. King Henry ruled over England from 1509 to 1547 BC, and in 1534 AD, broke with the Church of Rome, thus beginning the English Reformation. Then the reign of Queen Elizabeth in England, from 1558 to 1603, it was during her reign that Protestantism was established in England, and that there was a group of people that began to protest. In addition to our Baptist forebears, there was a group of people that began to protest against the Catholic Church and actually came out of the Roman Catholic Church. Now, with that in mind, I want to look very briefly at the reign of King James I. King James was the son of Mary, Queen of Scots. He was proclaimed King James VI of Scotland as an infant and raised by the English nobility as a Protestant. He ruled in England from 1603 to 1625 AD. In 1604, there were a couple of events that took place, which eventually led to the translation of what we know today as the Authorized King James Version. First of all, there was something known as the Millenary Petition. This was a petition that was signed by 1,000 Puritan or Presbyterian clergymen, which called for changes within the Church of England. So that petition, along with a conference known as the Hampton Court Conference. This conference was proclaimed by King James in response to this millenary petition. It was called to settle some of the differences between the Episcopalians and the Puritan parties within the Church of England. And it was in the middle of this conference that went decidedly against the Puritans that there was a suggestion made by a man by the name of John Reynolds. And John Reynolds made this suggestion that a translation be made of the whole Bible as consonant as can be to the original Hebrew and Greek, and this to be set out and printed without any marginal notes, and only to be used in all churches of England with time of divine service. And this petition, this suggestion, caught the attention of the king. Why would it catch the attention of the king? Well, it caught the attention of the king because the Puritans favored the Geneva Bible, while the Episcopalians preferred the Bishop's Bible. And on July the 22nd, 1604, King James announced that he had approved 54 selected men to translate a new Bible, and the work of translation began in 1607. And we're going to begin looking at this translation and how they did the translation tomorrow. But of these 54 men, really only 47 of them are positively identified. But as you look at these men, we're going to find out that these men were men of excellent caliber, and that they were also men that were very smart men. And we're going to see the technique that they used in the translation of the King James Bible. Many of the things I'm going to mention over these next few days is not going to be a study in the Bible as far as chapter references and verses and things of that nature are concerned, but it is key for us to understand these things so that we know how the King James Bible came about and the process that was used in doing so, and the care that was given in the translation of the King James Bible. So we'll begin to look at that tomorrow as we come back together once again. Have a good day.